Which element would Toffee be able to bend?
Food. Welcome to another episode of Tea and Toffee's a twice monthly readable podcast. Hello, I'm Neitshayd, who could have been a firebender, the most useless bending of them all.
And hi, I'm Cecilia, who would have most likely been a waterbender.
The most useful one.
Yes. So, what would Toffee bend? Fire? To cook her food?
But cats eat their meat raw. Water, maybe?
To catch fish?
Or earth? It's like, would food count as water or is earth more? Toffee would just invent food bending.
Yes, I can see that. Food bending for Toffee.
Sorry, give me a second.
You're wandering around in the universe, or in our studio, I should say.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped something. Anyway, so. Part 2 will be focused on world building, not world building. Building world.
To be precise,
gibberish.
Part 2 of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes, that Last Airbender Avatar,
Mm-hmm.
not Blue People Avatar.
No, not Blue People.
Okay. Last episode we contemplated the question: should Aang have killed Fire Lord Ozai?
Yes.
Our solution, the conclusion was that violence is the question. The answer is yes.
Yes, that was the conclusion.
Yes. It always is. It
No.
always is.
No.
It always is. So,
no.
but
The answer
should he
is
have
always
killed them?
42.
The answer to whether he should have killed them is more complicated. Watch that episode if you're interested in our thoughts. And also what we think about Netflix doing stuff. Destroying my plans of moldy tea.
Yes.
Because now the tea is fresh. Anyway, world building.
Fresh yuzu tea.
World building. Well, first of all, I shall explain, because Cecilia never really talks with all these things, why we are and are not analyzing the world building. Because of course we are analyzing the world building, but we're also not really doing it. It's a bit, yes, I will explain what I mean. If only Harry Potter had been written by an actually competent author and gotten good world building. But alas, it shall never be. But we're not here to talk about Harry Potter, we're here to talk about Avatar. So, for starters, Avatar: The Last Airbender's world building has been analyzed more than enough. But it would feel weird to do an episode about this show and then not put in our own 2 cents just because it's been overdone.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, after we've done the general praises, I picked some critiques I had while rewatching the show for us to take apart, for me to take apart, and Cecilia might occasionally comment on it.
I will add my 2 cents here and there.
Yeah. They might not have been overdone yet. I'm not quite sure, because I don't really know what has been done yet, to be honest. Because I admittedly never deliberately sought out articles and videos about it. I looked for some discussions online in preparation for this episode, just to see some general overviews, also to see whether people noticed that Iris Re-A changed.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit blindsided by noticing the change in Legend of Korra and then realizing that he already changed for book 3 of Last Airbender. Anyway, so I looked at some, and I actually have seen videos about Last Airbender's world building, but only because I was already following the channel who made them, not because I specifically wanted to watch those videos. They were good videos, though. I do know that there's so much more out there. The point that I find most intriguing and would love to analyze in detail, but will not, is the heavy inspiration Last Airbender took from Asian and Arctic cultures. But, and this is our main reason why we're not going to do that, Cecilia doesn't have any Asian or Inuit and Yupik heritage, and I I'm not human, and have spent my time in this world in Europe rather than Asia or the Arctic, so neither of us is qualified to do that, to analyze that. Yeah, just because we want to doesn't mean we should.
Indeed.
So, I don't really care about non-Asians and Arcticans talking about those cultural influences. Instead, I would love to see some Asian and Inuit and Yupik, Arctic people analyze the last Airbender's world building. I know there's this one YouTuber who did like an analysis on the Mulan live action that not so recently came out. I put their name on screen. I know this person did that, and they are of Chinese heritage. But are there others? Are there others who tell us, comparing with their own culture, how good or bad it is, and how appropriate it is? And I think I read somewhere that the air nomad genocide is problematic for reasons I don't know. I'm really curious. Like people who grew up with those cultures that Avatar took inspiration from. I know it isn't meant to represent any culture, of course. It's just very heavily influenced by them. But yeah, if anyone knows Asian and Arctic people talking about this show, are they called Arctic people? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Like, people tend to forget that people live there. So yeah, be it videos or written articles or if anyone knows, tell us please in the comments. I'm super interested in that.
Yes, please tell us.
But yeah, okay. So yeah, I would love to, but except for the dragon part, but that's more of a personal gripe. We're not going into the Asian and Arctic influences. Anyway, starting with the praises, the part that is excellent world building. Some general stuff and the bending and all that, but yeah, we've got 4 uniquely different nations, bending styles. And generally, just the world is fleshed out. It is for the most part coherent and logical. It is realistic, and it is a fantasy world, and it's saying something, and believable. And this is the most important part. You can believe that this is a world that works like this. You see each of the 4 nations and how they work and how they differ, including the politics. Like we've got the water tribe chiefs, we've got earth kings, we've got fire lords. Air nomads might have elders, who knows?
Who knows?
The nations also differ in bending natures, of course, in styles, bending styles, fighting styles, in their citizens' physical appearances, eye colors, skin tones. Not hair, because almost everyone has dark hair, but Asian influences. Most notably also fashion and hairstyles. We not only see Hanfu and kimono-inspired clothing, which would be China and Japan, respectively, we also see hanbok, which is Korean traditional clothing. Probably more traditional clothing that I don't know to recognize, because why would I? Also, let me get sidetracked for a moment here, because in the same episode where we see hanbok, Uncle Iroh is living his life to the fullest. We need to appreciate that. Except for when he occasionally has to worry about his nephew and drinks poisonous tea. But I respect that, poisonous tea or not. I respect him living his life to the fullest. On the matter of clothing, I want to add that I find it very interesting that the ceremonial robes for the Fire Lord's coronation were white. Because that is the color of mourning in China, but not in Japan, I think. Not in Japan, but in China.
You also shouldn't get yourself crowned while in mourning for your father. There is something called a mourning period, Ozai.
But we know he's evil bad guy.
Evil bad guy. I need to get crowned immediately.
Yeah, get my father killed, crown myself right after. Yeah. The bending in Last Airbender, but not Legend of Korra, itself is an excellent case of a magic system. I look judgingly at Harry Potter, and I look smilingly at Last Airbender, and I ignore Korra down there in the corner. That's for not next episode, episode after next, but anyway. Yeah, excellent case of a magic system. The world is nuanced. There is no ultimate good or evil, except for Fire Lord Ozai. And Sozin, I suppose. We don't know much about Azulan. But yes, Ozai and his predecessors, even Azula is a very complex character. We talked last episode about how great the character arcs are, and it is a character-driven story, and it excels in characters, it excels in world-building for the most part. So yeah, for example, also in the characters, like the Fire Nation is the enemy, but we still see people that are good and people that are complicated, but also people that are bad. So just because they're the enemy doesn't mean the entire nation is bad.
Yes, there are good people there.
Slytherin. Zuko's arc is one of the most well-done redemption arcs ever, and one that many shows have tried and failed to replicate. Now that's a character thing, not a world-building thing. And another character thing, Toph, is simply awesome. And the way she invents metal bending, and that's world-building again, is in line with what we know of the magic system. It fits in, it makes sense, and it's Toph being awesome once again.
Yes, badass female character.
Yes. Same goes for blood bending and lightning bending, the way it's explained and all that for Last Airbender. It's just, it's really great. It's great. The additional material, the graphic novels, in particular for this show, we talked a bit about what those are last episode. They explore gender equality and the views on LGBT plus in each nation a bit more, which I'm gonna go into a little bit. I would like to contain this to the original series for the most part, so I'll try to keep it short, but we know how I am.
Yes.
It will be short in time, but not in length, because I talk fast. So, we do, though, see some examples of how gender is handled in the cultures in the original show. The LGBT plus part is more in the comics, graphic novels. Anyway, let's start with some nice, obvious girl power examples. The scene that first comes to my mind is, apart from the Kyoshi Warriors, a girl has her race, Katara says, and then the camera swings to show us two boys frozen to the walls. Awesome. And also the fact that nothing is ever what you expect it to be in Last Airbender, because the fragile blind girl gets to teach Aang earthbending instead of the buff tough guys, because Toph is awesome. Yeah. My daughter is blind. She's blind and tiny and helpless and fragile, and then she goes to defeat 7 dudes all on her own.
Go Toph.
Because, also great narrative storytelling. Disability never stops anyone in Last Airbender. Anyway, cultural differences. We get to see Sokka in the Northern Water Tribe versus fierce Katara as an example of gender inequality, as well as Toph's patriarchal family in the Earth Kingdom. On the other hand, we have the Kyoshi warriors, and then Azula, who is respected. She commands soldiers, she's the heir to the throne. Zuko, Crown Princey, and being expelled, well, not banished, banished was the word. Yeah, it's a bit complicated, but
yeah.
Ozai and Azula both know that she's the heir. Zuko knows she's the heir. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
The Fire Nation has been said to have been very progressive in gender equality in general. We don't see much of that in the original show, though. Like, 90% of the soldiers are always men, but men, whatever. Male, they look male. They might be tiny girls at heart. Who knows?
I mean, we do see a girl in the canteen in the boiler and walk.
Yes.
I mean, they always wear uniform. How are we supposed to know whether they are men or women?
True. Yeah, true. But generally, the show just also with the Earth Kingdom and the others, it's just... Okay, for the Water Tribe, it makes sense, of course. Anyway, yeah, so Fire Nation is all about gender equality. In contrast to that, though, homosexuality was not accepted at all beginning with Sozin's reign. It was... I think the graphic novel tells that it was fine before that, but then Sozin came in and everything became homophobic. Yeah, one more negative point for Sozin. Yeah. Also, to round it up, because I mentioned all other nations, the graphic novels tell us that the air nomads, despite being divided by gender with their temples, were accepting of non-binary people, and also everyone could love whoever they wanted.
So it would be
So if
a
you're
good
non-binary, you
place
can
for
just
you.
get to choose where you go.
Yes, you could just choose where you go as a non-binary being.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Would they accept a demon though?
Oh yeah,
As
that's
spiritual monks?
That's the part that gets complicated.
Yeah, but gender-wise, I could just choose where I go. I would just look at all the 4 temples and be like, which one is coolest? That's where I want to go.
Probably.
So yeah. So the original show doesn't tell us much. You can read a bit between the lines, and I mean, of course, the Water Tribe misogyny is pretty big in book 1. We see that, at least. But the graphic novels tell us more. A lot more. One of the graphic novels, which is actually The Legend of Korra's Turf Voice, which is a very recent edition. Also, we need to give the show some leniency because this is a kids' show from the 2000s. Let us not forget that. Yeah, and the creators made up for it in the graphic novels. So, the animal bats, like I said, might divide their temples by gender, but we're generally pretty chill about non-binary people, and well, you love who you love. Fire Nation, always been about gender equality, but under Sozin's reign it got homophobic. Northern Water Tribe and early Sokka are pretty misogynistic, but accepting of homosexuality as long as it's kept private.
I really like... yes.
Also, mention, I always say homosexuality, but of course all other LGBT plus stuff included in this. Bisexuality is just as valid, I suppose. I mean, yes, it is.
Yes,
right?
Of course it is.
You're allowed to love whatever gender you like. You're allowed to love no gender, because why would you? It's so boring to love people. Sorry.
You're allowed to do whatever you want, and I wanted to say that I really like that we start to see change in the Northern Water Tribe's ways of things. When Team
Thinking.
Yes, way of thinking. And because of Team Avatar. A strong sense of community is now expanding towards their sister tribe again, and women might be allowed to learn how to fight as well.
And last, I want to say, but not least, but I'm not sure whether that's applicable here. Earth Kingdom. Earth Kingdom. Well, it's just as its bending starts very unyielding.
Yes.
It's
slow to change.
That's Kyoshi tried to change, but it was hard to get them to do anything. We see with Toe's parents that they're very patriarchal, but we do have the Kyoshi warriors, so there's that. It's summing it up, this part at least, good world building. Because each nation is different in lots of aspects. Bending that we will get into in a minute, styles of clothing, of living, of politics, of gender equality and LGBT and all that, and things change over the course of history. Zozen, depending who's reigning and all, and having each nation be different in both gender equality and views on sexual orientation, and those two not being necessarily related to each other, makes the world so much more complex and realistic, and that is great. That is great.
Yes, and that is great.
Bending. How bending affects the world. Because this is the part of Avatar The Last Airbender's world building that no one can ever go around.
Yes, the bending.
Despite the show being primarily influenced by Asian cultures, it uses a 4-element system rather than the Asian 5-element system. So there's already the first negative point in my opinion, but...
Well, that's your opinion.
I'm not human. Yeah, I'm not human, you're not Asian, so it's fine, but the 5-element system, as my research tells me, comes from the Chinese Wuxing philosophy. As you can see on this lovely picture taken from Wikipedia, one that Naruto fans in particular might find oddly familiar, yet somehow different. The 5 elements in question are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, each correlating to each other in a balanced cycle. This next one is the Japanese system, the Godai. Elements are wind, water, fire, earth, void, not necessarily in that order, because those, as far as I am aware, unlike the Chinese one don't form a circle. They're not really... Yeah, the Chinese one, as you can see it with these lovely little arrows. One is stronger than the other, but weaker than the other, and so on. And the Japanese one doesn't really have that, as far as I am aware. I could be wrong, of course. Or it could be different depending on history and philosophies and humans.
Yeah.
So, for comparison, here's the basic Naruto version with fire, wind, lightning, earth, and water. If we combine two of or more of these elements in the Naruto ones, we get others. For example, water and earth make wood. And then this one, number 4, is one of the elemental systems of European philosophies. This one was defined, among others, by Empedocles and Aristotle, and is made of, surprise, surprise, fire, earth, water, and air.
Woo, surprise!
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got like the Chinese Wuxing philosophy, the Japanese Godai, then Naruto. And yeah, the one that was proposed by Empedocles and Aristotle. I believe the English people call him Aristotle. For some reason, they leave the S out. Anyway, his name was Aristotle. Because Avatar: The Last Airbender's primary influences were Asian cultures, the 5-element system would have made more sense. I can see why the Wuxing one in particular wouldn't be attractive for bending.
Yeah.
But they could have used the Godai, or they could have adapted it like Naruto did, because Naruto obviously was like, yeah, we're gonna take 5 elements, but I don't like these elements, let's make others there. But they're using the circle and all that, and that would have made things more interesting to have, and especially because then you can be like, okay, yeah, my fire is weak against against water, but I can still be stronger than this waterbender just by sheer force of will and training and talent.
And I'm looking...
Or apply this to any of the other versions, of course.
I'm looking at the Japanese Godai system thingy, and I'm just like, imagine a void bender. A void.
That would have been fascinating.
And gonna suck your air and all your fire, and we'll just put up this little void, and all your bending goes in there and doesn't hit me whatsoever.
Well, I'm not sure whether the element works like that.
I have no clue how the element would work. I'm just making something up here.
It's a philosophy, and I mean, I didn't look much into it, but yeah, we don't know how the void works in that system. Could be anything.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy. So, who knows? But like I said, yeah, just go with the 5-element circle. And interaction balance stuff, since each of them, I mean, obviously it's not only that the elements interact with the 2 next to it, but also with the other 2 on the other side of the circle. Adapt it, because yes, okay, there is no air in there, and then having metal and wood is a bit odd when you have earth, but like I said, adapt it. And it wouldn't have been that much of a stretch to come up with a 5th nation and fighting style, since they already did such a good job with the 4 that we get to see.
Yeah, true.
Which we will get to take a closer look on now. The bending stars and how they affect the world at large, and thus each of the 4 nations differently.
Water is the element of change. The people of the water tribe are capable of adapting to many things. They have a deep sense of community and love that holds them together through tough times. Well, that's at least roughly what Ivo tells us. And given the masses of ice and snow they're surrounded by, understandable.
Waterbending is smooth and fluid, turning an opponent's strength against them. And it can turn water into ice, which greatly helps when building structures in the coldest regions of the world. It is based mainly on Tai Chi Kung Fu, one of the 3 main Chinese Wudang martial arts, learned from the push and pull of the ocean and the moon. More on that later. The southern water tribe has suffered greatly during the war and lost all but one of their waterbenders. It has already been small, or it was already small, during Hama's time, and it dwindled more until the series begins, with only a tiny village left of whatever it has been before with almost no defenses at all.
I would have really liked to know how the tribe looked before the war started. We see a little, but, well, the episode with Hama and what we see in there, it just wasn't enough for me. I want more.
Yeah, shows us a little bit, but not enough. Not enough. In comparison, the Northern Water Tribe, housing way more waterbenders, while still smaller than the other nations, has a solid city with huge walls surrounding it, and excellent defenses, and, well, transportation-wise, people move around in little boats that are steered by waterbenders. Water tribe people also tend to have blue or sometimes grey eyes, and there are swamp people. They are also waterbenders.
Yes, don't forget about the swamp people. And I would love to see what the tribes were previously like. Was there a catalyst for the rift between the tribes? Was it maybe one tribe?
Well, they are physically at the end of the world and on the other end of the world.
Let me continue.
And there's a war going on.
Let me continue. Was it maybe one tribe in the beginning, like most likely in the north, and the southern tribe was founded by a group that rebelled against the old-fashioned views of the north? Yes, that's what I want to know, because we do see that the southern tribe is smaller than the northern tribe.
But it hasn't always been.
Yeah, it hasn't. I mean, from what we see in Hamas at the time, the war hadn't really started, because she tells us on how the war started within...
No. That doesn't make sense, because Hamas is not 100 years old.
Can I still continue to try to explain my point before you interrupt me?
No.
I'm gonna do it anyways. Hama tells us how the war started in the south. Because the Fire Nation first declared war on the air nomads. And for the people in the Southern Water Tribe, yeah, there was war already, but it didn't affect them. She tells us about how the war started for the Southern Water Tribe as well. And she was alive there. She was young, and when we see her, she's old, so maybe like 70 years past or something. And yeah. But already during that time, like maybe roughly 70 years ago, there wasn't really a big Southern Water Tribe. So it makes me wonder if some people from the north just split up and started a new settlement there. And then, yes, there is a physical distance between the two tribes and a war going on. So communication is not really feasible there. Anyways.
Also, to that point, the question is, the scene we see, I believe, is about when Hama gets taken, right? And she tells us that she fights against Fire Nation, and then she gets taken.
I mean, we see multiple scenes where the waterbenders are taken bit by bit, and that the number of benders slowly dwindled away with every attack. And I doubt they attack like back to back every day.
Yes, but so we don't know at which point in the Southern Water Tribe versus Fire Nation war we are when we see the size of the village.
But didn't
because Hama is the last waterbender they took, and then there were no more until Katara was born.
Yes, but didn't Hama tell us that she saw like the beginning of the waterbenders slowly getting taken?
Yeah, but do we know whether the scene that we see in her flashback is from the beginning of that or not? That's the question.
I mean, from what she tells us, it is the beginning of the attack of the Fire Nation on the Southern Tribe.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. It's just she's telling us. She tells a story, and then we see them fighting the firebenders. So who's to say that she should? Well, the kids don't see that anyway, so it's just we are shown that.
Yes, and then we should be shown what it was like at the point in time when she starts her story, you know?
No. Because animators could just be lazy. Because we don't see the village change during that time, do we? And I think it is heavily implied that it only got so small to Katara's time because all the men left to fight in the war, which Katara is really angry about. Because their father just left them defenseless at the Southern Water Tribe, which, like, was that a good move? No, it wasn't. There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was. What was that? Ah, well. So, am I just gonna continue the episode on my own now, Cecilia? Yes? Okay.
Oh, no, of course you don't need to do that. I would have been a waterbender, as I said in the beginning of the episode. So, question is, in which tribe would I have been born in? Well, considering that there are no waterbenders left in the south besides Katara, I would most likely have been born in the north if I had been born during, like, that time period. I would have focused on healing anyways. And having grown up with the ideology of the North, I might not even see that much wrong with it. I would have been content with life growing up there. But if given the opportunity to learn more once Aang and his friends leave, I wouldn't turn down that opportunity.
You know, I would hate it at the Northern Water Tribe.
Yeah, probably.
I would love the cold, but I would hate it there. Like, I need my freedom all the way, please and thank you. Which the Fire Nation wouldn't have given me. But whatever.
Whatever.
I'm a free spirit and no one can tell me what to do.
As I haven't actually grown up with those ideologies, the policy of only men being allowed to learn how to fight is utter rubbish. Rubbish, I tell you.
Definitely. I might not like Katara, but go Katara.
Okay, on the matter of freedom. Air is the element of freedom. The air nomads detached themselves from worldly concerns and focused and found peace and freedom. And apparently a pretty good sense of humor, like airbending cakes on the heads of other monks.
Fun to think about. How would
I even know about that?
Yes, how does he even know about that? Airbending is light-footed and accompanied by great agility and flexibility, following the path of least resistance. It is also heavily connected to spirituality. Based mainly on the Baguazhang Kung Fu, which I might have mispronounced, I'm sorry for that, another of the three main Chinese Wudang martial arts, learned from flying bisons. We'll get into that later. The air temples were built in areas that are only practically accessible to airbenders, which makes one assume that the air nomads didn't really have non-benders. High on the mountains, upside down.
Non-benders,
we don't know much about their culture, though.
Non-benders that are born in the temple, they can just not leave the temples as easily.
How are air nomads born anyway, since they are divided by gender? And they are monks. They are divided by gender. Also, nomads?
I think I actually put that somewhere in my notes, but it could be that I put that in my Korra notes. It's right. I mean, what is there is that the air nomads, shouldn't they be like nomads wandering around? But I had a note about how they reproduce in the first place, since they are monks.
Yeah, well, we don't know much about them, do we? But yeah. Nomads travel constantly and don't really settle down. But from what we see, the air nomads seem to have resided permanently in their temples.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there are air nomads that decide to leave and live life as actual nomads. We never hear about that. Obviously, Aang is the only airbender left, and as the Avatar, can't exactly do that. But we never get a mention of how it was in the old days. Although Aang did travel around a lot. before he got himself trapped in ice for 100 years, so there's that.
I can't remember if the graphic novels or The Legend of Korra tell us anything about that. If they did, I kind of just went past me, didn't notice. But anyway, they had mainly grey eyes, occasionally brown.
Next element. Earth is the element of substance. The people of the Earth Kingdom are diverse and strong. They are persistent and enduring. Maybe that's why the prison riot in Book 1 turned out successful in the end.
Probably. Earthbending is strong, enduring, unyielding, and, as Bumi put it, an earthbender waits and listens. Based mainly on Hunga Kung Fu, which, by the way, belongs to the Southern Shaolin style, among others. Except for Toff, because Toff is tough and gets to base her own bending on a different martial arts style. That is not this one.
Toff is awesome.
Yeah, bending and culture. So Umashu's delivery system is a great example of how earthbending helps in the Earth Kingdom. The trains in Ba Sing Se are pushed by earthbenders. The city is also surrounded by and divided by extremely high earthen walls. Earth Kingdom people tend to have green, brown, or sometimes grey eyes, by the way.
Yeah. And what's the difference between earth and rocks?
Earth. It's earth.
All is earth. Considering that the Earth Kingdom spans a very large area, it's not weird to have multiple major cities that govern themselves. It just makes me wonder who rules all the small villages. Do they even have a ruler? Only a village chief, maybe? And how does that work with the Earth Kingdom army? When Zuko travels, we see soldiers stationed in a village. And at the very beginning of Book 2, on the way to Omashu, we have generals and the like. Who is their employer? Who finances that? It must be the collective villages and cities of the Earth Kingdom, right? But how do they manage that with no way of fast transportation across the vast territory?
Do they not have that? I mean, the rich people could have transportation that is moved around by earthbending, like the trains in Ba Sing Se. So we don't know.
But I think the trains in Ba Sing Se, they're only like meant for that area, and you don't have. They're only within the walls.
The thing with the Earth Kingdom is also that it's kind of suffering greatly under the war.
Yeah.
As seen in Zuko alone. So there's that as well. The people outside Ba Sing Se are poor and hungry and don't really have much.
Because the connecting of the Earth Kingdom and all the different places through a fast traveling mechanism, trains, only comes with Korra, Book 4, and Kuvira.
Yes, for what is actually good world building on their part. But also it only really is in the Republic nation, because that's where all the nations mix and exchange and invent stuff. And outside, not really, but we don't really see the outside. Yeah, we'll get to that, Korra.
Yes.
So, also government-wise, I mean, we have the Earth King, but then you have Umashu, which is also ruled by a king who's not the Earth King. Oh well.
Yeah.
Mystery is what makes the world building good.
Yes. Maybe it's just Ba Sing Se, the general thing, but Omashu is just its own independent city-state.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Could be. Next.
Who knows? Fire is the element of power. The people of the Fire Nation have desire and will, and the energy and drive to achieve what they want.
Finally.
Reminds me of Slytherin, actually. Desires, will, achieve what they want, ambitions.
Well, yeah. Guess that's why I'm a firebender.
Guess so.
Would be a firebender. Firebending comes from the breath and the sun. It is the only element that is created by the bender rather than taken from their surroundings.
What about airbending?
This style...
What about airbending?
Airbending is all around you. They take the air that is already there.
I mean,
so are they technically nitrogen benders? Because air is like mainly nitrogen?
Maybe. But I mean, fire, can you really create that? Like, say that they created on their own, they just heat the air around them. Oh, wait.
No.
Oh, wait. They need. Yeah. Because fire is burning. What are they burning, actually?
Yes, exactly. They are the only ones that create their element. And do not take it from their surroundings.
Dang it.
There are some fanfics that explore how firebenders need to eat more because they need more energy that they burn with the firebending. And that's why firebenders technically shouldn't be able to get fat because they burn all the energy. But that's fanfiction. We don't really have any. But yes, they create fire. The others do not. This style needs a strong will and is rather aggressive, as is its element. Based mainly on northern Shaolin Kung Fu.
Power in firebending comes from the breath, not the muscle, Zuko. And it makes sense. The first firebenders breathed fire after all.
So they did. The Fire Nation, compared to the other three, is further technologically advanced. It has so much more technology than the others. Yeah. Although it must be mentioned that the mechanist who invented their airships, for one, and the drill and all that, was from the Earth Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
The coal ships are the first to note, right in Book 1. The drill I mentioned from Book 2, the airships. And this fits because firebending is ideal to provide the energy needed to fuel such contraptions. The hot air balloon is an excellent example of this. Fire Nation people also have aimbar eyes ranging from yellow to golden to brown.
They have school and industrialization. They have manipulated history, like air nomad armies.
Propaganda.
Yeah,
yes.
Loyalty gets drilled in at a young age, like the oath at the beginning of every class, propaganda, strict discipline. We have a palace in the middle and not on the edge, which also important. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly different from the rest, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's how because their bending allows for the industrialization.
Yes.
And then there was energy bending, which isn't really known around the world of Avatar and thus doesn't really have an influence. It's also Deus Ex Machina that was only introduced at the very end to solve a problem that the creators didn't know how to solve, but...
Yes, and that's why Iroh doesn't have a quote about that. I can't quote Iroh.
Yes, it brings me to another point I wanted to address. Qi and Chakra.
I was wondering about that and confused. And I was just waiting for your explanation because I knew that you would explain it to me.
I want to make a little note that Qi is often written as CHI.
What?
But the pinyin should be a QI. Because for Chinese, QI and CHI are pronounced differently, which we can't do because we're not Chinese and Chinese is really hard. Respect to everyone who speaks Chinese, especially the ones who learned it as a second language. Like, wow.
Yeah, I had to explain that with the QI written like that to my brother at one point because he didn't know about that.
It's just Chinese is impressive.
That it is.
And you think you understood a little bit, and then you go further and you're like, wait, it's more complicated, like with the 5 different tones and whatnot. And Chinese is impressive. Very impressive.
Wait, was this 4 tones? Is it 5? Oh, gosh.
Where you got the up, the down, the weird one, the long one, and the short one. The short one isn't really used, though.
The up, the down.
So that might make 5.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yes, so Qi. Qi and Chakra both work in tandem with the bending in Avatar. The show uses these 2 terms, but they never really elaborate on Qi. For Chakra. pronunciations in English. For chakra, we get the episode with the guru, where he explains that there are 7 chakras within us and that these can be blocked by certain emotions. He's not wrong. I will give you this nice image to go along, where it tells you the Hindu names that I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm not going to name them. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to try. Just these are the Hindu names for where it originates in India, by the way, and Hinduism. And yeah. We'll start at the bottom, where the guru also starts with Eng. The root chakra. The root chakra is connected to the physical body and the earth. Color is red. As the guru correctly tells us, a phrase I will use often just to tell you which is correct, and everything I don't preface with that might not be correct. As the guru correctly tells us, this one is located at the base of the spine. At our root, so to say. Associated with the earth and concerned with survival. He tells us it is blocked by fear, which is not wrong, but the feelings the guru tells us that block each chakra can also block the others, technically, because it depends a lot on the context. It's a bit wishy-washy with the... yeah. But for a kid's show, it's fine, I guess. Second, the sacral chakra, located below the belly button, color orange. As the guru correctly tells us, its element is water, and it is connected to pleasure, or for higher maturity ratings, sexuality. Guilt supposedly blocks it, the guru says. Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe. The solar plexus chakra, exactly where it says it is, between the navel and the breastbone, color yellow. Guru says belly, stomach, which, not exactly. I don't think the stomach is not the solar plexus, but whatever. But as he correctly tells us, its element is fire. I say it is for willpower, self-worth, and self-esteem. Blocked by shame, the guru says, which is actually very fitting because the solar plexus chakra wants you to be free of shame, so of course shame would block it. The heart chakra, color green, element, which isn't mentioned in the show, is air. Located at the center of the chest, where the heart is technically not, but we'll let it slide because it is called heart chakra, so if the guru says heart, then sure, fine. But center of the chest. Like the guru says, it is connected to love. Also, spirituality, compassion, and forgiveness. Guru says blocked by grief, which sure, could be. Next one is the throat chakra, color blue. As the guru correctly tells us, its element is sound and it is located in the throat, the hollow of your throat. This chakra is for communication. It is our voice and self-expression, concerned with speaking the truth. The truth is what the guru sums it up, and so of course it would be blocked by lies. Then we have the third eye chakra, color indigo. As the guru correctly tells us, its element is light, and it is located at the center of the forehead, between your eyebrows, where your third eye would be if you had one. This one is connected to our intuition and self-reflection, or in the guru's words, insight. And according to him, blocked by illusion, and he says the biggest illusion is separation because everything is connected. Which is a very prevalent philosophy in many different, religions and philosophies and stuff. The seventh chakra is the crown chakra, color violet. As the guru correctly tells us, its element is thought, and it is located at the crown of the head. Hence the name. This chakra connects us to the divine, spirituality, enlightenment. According to the guru, it symbolizes pure cosmic energy and is blocked by earthly attachments, which is where Aang ultimately encounters the biggest problem. This is not quite precise, but alright, sure, whatever. So all in all, the guru and his explanation of the chakras is more or less accurate. Chakras can become blocked by all sorts of things, not specific, but they can be blocked by specific emotions, but they don't have to be the one the guru tells us, right? Some of the chakras, they make a lot of sense. For others, a bit far-fetched maybe, but guilt can block a lot of chakras, for one. Shame can do. Whatever emotions and emotional turmoil you have, it depends on the context. It always depends on the context. Yeah. So, you can free your unblocked chakra, usually via meditation, self-reflection, figuring out what is blocking them. It's easier to unblock them with outside help. Depends on how and why they're blocked. The blockage can also be caused by physical issues, by the way.
And then you
Which you most likely need outside help to unblock them.
Maybe a conveniently placed rock.
Well, yes, that as well. Yes. For physical issues, a conveniently placed rock might help you unlock the avatar unblock your chakra.
Yes, but I guess seeking outside help is better than a conveniently placed rock.
And safer as well.
Yes, definitely.
So that was chakra, but what about Qi? What we do know from the show, with how Qi works in the world of Avatar, The Last Airbender, is that Qi is the source of bending. We know that waterbender healers follow the Qi paths within the body. We know that Hailey's fighting style blocks your Qi, and therefore your bending, your ability to move your limbs and all that. And while not mentioned in the show, I personally believe that energy bending is essentially a manipulation of a person's Qi, because Qi is intrinsically connected to bending. So of course, and then, Qi is also an energy and energy bending, so makes sense, doesn't it? That it would be a manipulation of the Qi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the guru, I believe, could be wrong. I think he explains that the chakras are clusters of Qi, which is a bit... So, I mentioned this already. Chakra originates from China and is most often associated with yoga these days, part of Hinduism and all that. Qi is life energy that exists all around us and within us, following paths similar to our blood vessels, and originated in China. So these two are basically different energy systems with different philosophical backgrounds, and I think combining them is a bit... I don't know, it could work. If you're of the opinion that chakra is real, if you're of the opinion that Qi is real, of course they could technically be combined, but possible. I don't know. I know a lot about chakras, but I don't know a lot about Qi, which is why I went more into the chakras than the Qi. But so I don't know. I don't know. It could be possible, but I still think combining them like that with this wishy-washy hand thrown away second-hand comment, I don't know. It's could be, could not be. I'm not really convinced though.
So we already we already had the element system in relations to the Naruto element system because they adapted it, and Naruto also uses chakra.
Yes.
So tell me.
Yes, it does. I noticed the Naruto version of chakra and chakra paths is eerily similar to Qi, and not really similar to our world's chakra system. But we're not here to speculate about Naruto's world building. We might do that in a Naruto episode if we do.
Yes, that might come later, because I am currently watching Naruto voluntarily. Would you look at that?
I watched Naruto in entirety, didn't really watch Shippuden, but I read the manga. Naruto was my first anime. Naruto Shippuden was my first anime, and the Naruto manga was my first manga, and I read the entire thing, and then I sold the entire thing to a friend.
Yeah.
It's nostalgia mostly. I don't know, the end was really... You will see what I mean.
Yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm already done with the first season.
Of Naruto. Of which you can skip like half the seasons because they're basically filler, which is so weird.
Yeah, I think I will look that up at some point at what season or episode I should start to skip because it's just filler, and then when I should start with Shippuden, because I think Shippuden doesn't really have much filler, if I remember correctly.
Well, since Shippuden is so much longer, the percentage of filler is less. It's not 50%, but it also has a lot of filler because it's longer. but filler arcs.
Really?
Naruto did it better than One Piece. You do not have Naruto. As far as I know, Naruto does not jump on one place and for 25 minutes, even though he has a 10-minute time limit.
Yes.
But that's One Piece. Anyway. So far so good. Mostly excellent, great storytelling, world building stuff. Let me move on to critiques I had. Because those are more interesting, aren't they? Not so excellent world building. Avatar: The Last Airbender is often cited as having one of the most well-done world buildings ever. And it does. But there's a but in there. Do you hear the but? No, not that one.
The other but.
The cat is in my room this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
I can see the cat butt.
Yes.
She moved since recording our last episode.
Oh, she moved.
Yes, she turned around.
Wow.
So much movement.
Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the problems is this small, tiny little thing that most people either don't notice or willfully ignore. And there are others, but one is like, something that all good authors know not to do. You do not show your audience the entire world. Which doesn't mean that your protagonist can't travel around the entire world and you see the entire world. It's more about you don't show them your entire world building. As a creator, you should always know more than you show your audience. This makes the world seem larger, more compelling, gives it a little bit of mystery that the audience can try to figure out on their own. Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom overdoes this a bit. They don't really show us enough, but it also makes for really compelling and interesting analysis that we won't do.
Nope, we won't.
But I love those games. I think I'm going to stream them one day, just because they're awesome. Anyway, yeah. So, the audience should get the feeling that there's more going on elsewhere. But in Lost Airbender, you see all that is going on, and there's nothing else. Even though we have an episodic style with independent mini stories in every episode, it's just like, you don't get the feeling that there's unexplored parts and cultures and problems. Except for the spirit world, actually, which is kind of its point, because it's a spirit world and it's all about mystery and it's really well done.
Yes, it is.
But looking at it as a whole, the physical world of Last Airbender feels small when it shouldn't. It shouldn't feel small.
Well.
Legend of Korra makes this problem even worse, as we will discuss in the Legend of Korra episode. It also undoes all that the Last Airbender spirit world did well, which is even more unfortunate. Moving on. At first glance, it seems like the world of Last Airbender has a rich history. We see the consequences of the war, especially in Zuko Alone. Really good episode. We hear about legends and myths, but it doesn't feel, at least to me, who looked at it critically, it doesn't feel as if there are many more than what we do get to see, which is sad. Because it wouldn't have been very difficult to allude to there being so much more going on in this world that the main group doesn't have the time to get around to and see and explore and all that. It wouldn't have been hard. They already built such a great world. Okay, it's a kid show. It doesn't happen. And it's sad, and it makes the first... It's like, yes, it's a kid's show, but that's not an... I mean, it is an excuse, and it's also an excuse. Not an... right?
Yes.
Excuses are still excuses at the end of the day, and not good justifications necessarily. So yeah, it's fine that it is that way, but it also means that it is not a masterpiece at the end of the day. And if the Netflix show wants to be great, it should probably solve those problems, but who knows?
Who knows? We will see.
Yeah, kids show. Yeah, Last Airbender suffers from its rating. This also shows in violence. We don't really see any burns, except that one time that Aang hits Katara accidentally, which is immediately resolved by Katara discovering waterbending healing stuff. And Zuko's scar is a thing. And I mean, okay, lightning bending scars, but it's, but otherwise, for all that we have a lot of encounters with firebenders, no one really gets burned.
Yes.
People with sharp weapons never actually hit anyone. Like mice, knives never draw blood. They merely destroy clothes. We are more.
The waterbenders use ice. You can get burns from that as well.
Yeah, you can get frost burns.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we see Zuko getting frost burns from jumping into ice water, but
yeah.
otherwise not really. You can also get stabbed by icicles? Ice projectiles? Can stab people. Fire can burn people. Earth can crush people and stab people.
Yeah.
Air can choke people. Okay, we see that in Korra, but we're not here about Korra. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's like generally, and sharp winds could also cut you. So it's like we don't really see blood at all.
Blood.
No blood. No burns. No ouchies. People do die in this kids show, but you don't notice because you don't really see. Combustion Man died, and we see that, but it's glossed over and not really. Yeah, it's there, and you don't even notice that this was an actual murder. Sokka murdered that man. It's just moving on.
Happened.
There is a war going on. It has been going on for 100 years. Lots of people died in that war. Like I said, Sokka kills Combustion Man. These are children that are living through a war. And then after the show have lived through a war. Where are the consequences of that? Where are the mental health issues? I want.
Azula.
Instead, because this is a kids show with a, rated, whatever. I think it has the lowest maturity rating that there is. So instead we get bloodless carnage. Which is a trope. It's an actual trope. Bloodless carnage.
Bloodless carnage.
Also, no one ever wonders about the main group's clothes in books 1 and 2. Like, clearly those are water tribe clothes and air nomad clothes. No, just weird fashion choices. No need for concern. Air nomads are extinct anyway.
Why would you need to see the tattoos, Azula? You should have recognized them from the clothing alone.
Yeah, same goes for the eye colors, actually. Just
that
book
too.
3 does finally address that, which I'm happy about. But the other 2 books don't, and that's not so good. Writing. Is it writing? Is it world building? Is it both? Well, world building is technically writing, so. Also, language differences are completely absent. And we do travel around an entire world, an entire planet. So, yes, that would have complicated things for a kids' show. It wouldn't have unnecessarily complicated things. It would have just complicated them. We do at least see Aang using outdated Fire Nation slang, so there's that. Also, not so good world building, which is partly because of the way Netflix handled the show, partially because the writers were figuring out stuff while writing the show. Bending origins in Avatar: The Last Airbender. We're gonna ignore what Legend of Korra did for now, because we're gonna address that in Legend of Korra. So we're going to base this discussion solely on what we see in Last Airbender. Everyone, according to Toph, learned, well, not Toph, but everyone, according to someone, learned from the animals. We got the dragons, the Vegemals, the flying bisons. And then there's the waterbenders, who learned from the moon instead.
Was it so difficult to make an animal hybrid who would have been able to waterbend? If there's a moon... Yeah, of course, apparently it is. And if there is a moon spirit and its existence enables select humans to waterbend, then is there also a spirit for fire, air, and earth? Is there a sun spirit? And if you kill the sun spirit, the firebenders can't bend anymore.
We see would be perfectly fitting considering what happens during the eclipse, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's, the firebenders are special, which I have issues with. The opposite, the waterbenders are extra special, which I don't actually mind that as much, but it's also not good world building technically, but it still works somehow. It's complicated.
Why are the firebenders special except for they make they're the only ones who don't draw from their surroundings?
Yeah, that is special, but that is perfectly fine. Now it's I have an entire section about not why they are special, why I have problems with the special part, which is the dragons. But it's like more of a personal issue rather than world building, but it's still world building. I will get to it. I have a section on that. I'm gonna get angry.
Yes, I know.
Waterbenders though, the extra special ones. I think it's likely because the creators hadn't figured out the learning from animals thing at that point in book 1. Which they retconned later in Legend of Korra anyway.
Yes, they did.
So, personally, I really, really like the idea of having the benders learn the art from nature. It's just rather inconsistent and a bit odd as well in parts. I mean, the badger moles, for one. We see Toff learning from the badger moles. The show clearly shows us how earthbending was derived from them. Works, is fine, is good, well done. Also, we see how Toff learned to see from them, which excellent. We love Toff. Of course we do. Then there's the dragons. Ignoring that they're dragons, the learning part is also well done. We show how we see in the dragon episode how the original firebenders learned from them. We learn via Zuko how the Fire Nation corrupted it. We get to see how the dragon dance overlaps with the way the dragons move. It's really well done. We can assume that lighting was later invented, the same way that Hama invented blood bending and that Toph invented metal bending. Which actually, what did the airbenders invent? Nothing. Okay.
Nothing.
So, yeah, we also see this way of learning with the push and the pull of the moon in the ocean. The way Katara learns water bending during the course of book 1. It's just, yeah, it's a push and pull. It's smooth, fluent. It works. It's not as intricate because there is only push and pull and nothing more to the moon in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much more than push and pull moves in water bending. But if we include the mortal fish forms of the spirits, then it's kind of fine. The fish also move in different... Right? You can compare water bending to the way a fish would move.
Fish.
That works. And a lot of... Especially the way Aang and Katara train their water bending is like, yeah, it's as if a fish swims between them and around them. But then I wonder, where did the ice and the healing come from? Was that always... Because... Unless they invented it the same way bloodbending was invented, in which the waterbenders invented 3 new techniques, which wow. Otherwise, where did that come from? Where did they learn that from? Where did they learn that from? Because we don't really have an animal for them that could show them that, do we?
I mean, they live at the poles, so there is ice around.
Yeah, maybe they were just like, yeah, the water I learned to bend from the moon, the moon and the ocean froze. But hey, I can manipulate the frozen one as well to a certain degree. Or I can learn how to freeze it myself. Maybe that's how.
Yeah.
It's possible. And then there's air with flying bisons. Gigantic bisons that flap their tail. I don't see any of the airbending movements and principles in there, like, at all. Where did they learn traditional airbending from? Because I don't see that in the flying bisons. Airbending is agile and flexible and light-footed. Aang is like the epitome of a light bender, especially in like the early seasons before Toph drills them earthbending into him. And then you got like a gigantic bison.
The lemurs would have been a better fit, because they are agile.
Yes. Which brings me to my next smaller point, the animals. Like, this one is really small, I don't have much to say, but I want to mention it to like smooth us over to my rant about
Dragons?
Yeah. The animals are both genius and super lazy, because they're basically either completely normal animals or hybrids of 2 animals, making something that's kind of fun. They didn't even give them original names, and I'm honestly not sure whether that's a good or a bad thing that the animals are just like that. Examples include otter penguins, cat gators, based on catfish, not cats, unfortunately, lizard wasps, and turtle ducks.
Turtle ducks! Turtle ducks!
Turtle ducks. Turtle ducks, yes. While we're on the topic of that, lemurs, you said. Momo, I say. Did you know lemurs were named after the Roman lemures, who are malicious shades of the dead?
Wait. How does that work with the pronunciation?
Yeah, because, okay, lemurs, as you can see on screen, Lemurs, and then you got lemurus, which is, the beginning is the same, it's Lemur, and then es, there's an E in there at the end. Lemurus has a fixed pronunciation because it is the English pronunciation version of the Latin lemurus. Or something like that. We can't be 100% sure how Latin was actually pronounced, but it should be lemurus also. Lemurs. Yeah. So Lemurus is obviously how an English person would pronounce it. Lemurs could have honestly gone several ways because that's English for you. You have lemurs, you have lemurs, you have lemurs, you have whatever it is. And even if you were to write them exactly as lemurus, you could still pronounce them as anything you want because that's English for you.
English.
But the name was the lemurs were named after lemurus. So that's that. I just found that interesting. I just wanted to put it in here because it was interesting tidbit that has nothing to do with Avatar.
So now. Dragons?
Now. Yes. This section is titled Nightshayd's Problem with the Dragons. It is not titled The Problem with the Dragons. It is titled Nightshayd's Problem with the Dragons. For reasons. Yes.
Yes.
You may take me seriously, you may not take me seriously. This is just, I have a problem with this. This could be a world building problem, could not be, who knows? I'm just angry.
Then run away.
I love dragons. I love firebending. The combination makes me angry. So, when I saw the dragon episode for the first time, which isn't even when we see the dragons for the first time, because Roku also has a dragon, I didn't know much about cultures outside the one I was living in back then. And then I saw this, and this was my favorite episode because it's awesome. You have fire-breathing dragons, you've got colorful fire, you've got Zuko being an awkward turtle duck. It's just the way they learn the dragon dance and all that, the sun warriors, which, funny enough, sun warriors are neither Arctic nor Asian. Would you look at that?
Yeah.
Aztec culture, I believe. So, yeah, it still is one of my favorite episodes, but it's not as much anymore, not as high on the list anymore as back then because of the dragons, but also because other episodes have stepped up for reasons I wouldn't have appreciated back then as I grew to learn more about your world. It's so fascinating when you take the humans out of it and just leave the human artifacts, you know? Just snap your fingers, make all humans vanish, and then explore the world. That would be fun. So,
well, then you wouldn't have anyone paying for all your stuff and for a roof over your head. But you would have empty buildings you could use.
Yeah. Just look at any apocalyptic stories, post-apocalypses. Then you know what a world like that might look like, depending on the apocalyptic event. So, yeah, I don't like the dragon design. And sure, yeah, this is a fictional world based on many different cultures, not all of them Asian, and, well, I'm not Asian, you are not Asian, it's, yeah. But, you know, mixing a Western and Eastern dragon design seems to me like the wrong choice. Eastern dragons would have both made more and less sense at the same time, more because of the cultural influences mainly used for Last Airbender, less because Eastern dragons don't breathe fire, they are associated with water for the main part. Hey, why not use an Eastern dragon for the waterbenders? That would have made sense.
Yes, please. I want an Eastern dragon.
Even the movement, because as
fluid as water.
Some of the dragons were evolved mythologically from koi fish.
Mm-hmm. Fish, and then you got dragons. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they are swimming through the air like koi fish. So that would have made sense for waterbenders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, you're European. I've spent the last decade in Europe. We obviously are not qualified to judge this based on Asian point of view. Someone online mentioned that the Asians might not, or some personal don't really mind it, some mind it. I don't know, whatever. So I'm not judging this technically from an Asian standpoint, because obviously not. But I'm still going to explain why this made me upset, because, like, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, entirely personal opinion. I'm entitled to that. I'm allowed to do that. So not to be representative of anyone else but me. Though I still say that in regards to world building, the dragons are not a good point. That they are a bad example of world building, but they are not the worst flaw. I just pointed out other flaws. We had a discussion about this, you and I, Cecilia. this is a personal dislike. So, the creators could have chosen any animal to represent firebending. Really, there's so many hybrids that they have in that world. There are so many hybrids they could have just invented, just meshing two animals together. It's just, look at the badger moles. Look at the sky bisons, who are apparently based on bisons and manatees. Look at turtle ducks. Turtle ducks. Why dragons? Like, yeah, sure, dragons are cool, but like, why do the firebenders have to be special? We already established waterbenders are special because of writing, and probably didn't think. Yeah, but why the firebenders?
Because they're the antagonists?
Yeah, and the waterbenders? Are they antagonists? No, the showrunners had likely just not. Or what knows? Maybe there are interviews out there that explain why the water. Maybe someone can tell us, why are they special? Was that a writing thing? Was that intentional? Who knows? But yeah, why are the firebenders special? Why? There's no reason. Okay, one could of course argue like Western Eastern Dragon hybrid is in line with the other hybrids we see, but well, in my opinion, it is not, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't get so angry. For one, the other animals are hybrids of existing species that are very different to each other, often not even closely related on the evolutionary tree. Again, turtle, ducks. The Western dragons and the Eastern dragons, which actually, why are they both called dragons? They're not related. Are mythological species. They do not exist. We don't have proof that they existed. It's like, dinosaurs, at least we have proof, even though they were a joke from God that no one has realized yet. But like, dragons? No proof. They are myths. Myths. One is an oversized, greedy, gold-hoarding, fire-spitting lizard with bat-like wings. The other one is actually a hybrid of many different animals that you can look up, depending on which of the cultures you look at. They're slightly different. So yeah, it's already a hybrid of many different ones. Some of them are not even scaled, but probably have fur instead. They are most often associated with controlling water in lightning and storms. They are often benevolent and never greedy. So these types of dragons are fundamentally different creatures that someone has decided to give the same names. Or rather translated name, because like, okay, we have the dragons that have, like, depending on which language you use, a similar sounding name to dragon, right? And that's the Western part. The Eastern one is obviously translated. A accurate name for the Eastern one could be Lung, since you got the Japanese Ryu and the Korean Imugi and Yong. I might have mispronounced those, I'm sorry. But those, the Japanese and Korean and even the Vietnamese one, are based partially or completely on the Chinese Lung. So the Lung are actually the embodiment of Yang, by the way. And the Yin is represented by white tigers. Yin and Yang. Anyway, so also, what do the Last Airbender dragons have wings for when they don't need them to fly? They don't need them to fly, so why do they have wings? And if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, the dragons that we see in Legend of Korra and the graphic novels don't have wings. And those lived before Dan and Shah that we see in Last Airbender. So they must have evolved those wings, which doesn't make sense because the wings are redundant. So, like, why? Why?
Because.
Also, the Lung are sometimes depicted as walking on clouds rather than flying. I believe One Piece recently did that as well. That, like, in One Piece you get some devil fruit that makes you into a dragon, and those can generate clouds and walk on them, and that's how they fly. Anyway, there are also some versions where they swim through the air like koi fish, because they might have evolved from koi fish, which is, I think, prevalent in Japanese legends, which makes more sense for water bending. Or they are simply divine beings above the mortals, and that's why they fly and don't touch the ground. Not all of them do, though, because, like, different dragons have different Lung have different domains they reside over, and a Lung concerned with earthly matters and his mountain might not need to or water one might not need to fly through the air, you know. But yeah, they are divine mythological beings, which is another issue I have with the Last Airbender dragons, because those are essentially animals. And dragons are not. Nor are Lung. They are not. Well, okay, Western dragons were historically essentially beasts most of the time, but some of them were intelligent beasts, just monsters, you know. Not sure how many legends about benevolent Western dragons there are out there, because it's more of a recent thing, I believe. So yeah, they are usually meant to represent greed, and are meant to be slain by the heroes of various legends or not. Some are not intelligent, some are intelligent, some are highly intelligent and above the humans, but they are generally all evil by human moral standards. That just is. Lung are intelligent, wise, more often than not divine beings worshipped as gods, rulers over water and the weather, and they are associated with the Chinese imperial family. So, yeah. Also, fire-breathing dragons are kind of overdone, but Last Airbender came out over 15 years ago, so that's not their fault. That's not something I can fault them with, but yeah. Any other Last Airbender unique animal hybrid would have been better, I say.
And now I want Lung as the origin for waterbending.
Yeah, how about that? Give a Lung to the waterbenders and a Western dragon or Western dragon hybrid mixed with another animal to the firebenders, and then it would have been fine.
Yes.
Then it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Okay, rant over. Thank you for listening to me.
Yes.
I'm not sorry. I'm sorry for mispronouncing potentially mispronouncing. I'm definitely mispronounced some of those names because yeah. For that I apologize, but for everything else, yeah, it's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Okay, thank you. Yes. That's it.
Yeah.
You can find us, as always, on Twitter and Spotify and YouTube at Tea and Toffies.
And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a comment. What element would you be able to bend? Food like Toffee, water like me, fire like Neitshayd.
Earth like Torf, air like Aang. Yes, what element would you have been able to bend? If you have recommendations of people, Asian, Arctic, I don't think Aztec people exist anymore, who have analyzed the Last Airbender's the influences the Last Airbender took from their cultures, the ones they grew up with, please do tell us. We're very interested in this stuff. Like I mentioned, I know about this one YouTuber who did it, Chinese one, but I want to know more. I want to see others. I'm really interested in that stuff.
Like the Ravenclaw, you are not. And after you've commented that, you can like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.
Yes, after a short break for Harry Potter, we're starting on Book 3, Prison of Azkaban. We will take a look at Legend of Korra and how it fared as a sequel to such a popular show as Last Airbender, because that's really very much of a burden. So, if you're interested, why don't you join us for that in a month? Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.